RB, thanks for sitting down with me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Shawn.
RB, AgriCapital is one of the largest investment banking firms in agriculture. Congratulations on that. You founded it back in 1983.
Yeah.
There's lots of water under the bridge since 1983. What can you tell us about the status of the business now, and what have you learned?
Sure. Shawn, I started the company in '83 when agribusiness and agriculture was facing some great challenges. If you may remember, in '83, the great movie came out called Country, and everybody knew that all of agriculture in America was going to wash down the Mississippi, and nothing was going to get left. And but having grown up in Lebanon, and at that time in Lebanon, in '83, there was so much uncertainty, so much destruction, and I was driving across Iowa and I saw these beautiful green fields, and I said, you know, maybe things aren't as bad as people make them out to be. So I decided to specialize, my background is investment banking, to specialize in agribusiness to help companies cope with change. At that time, the change was challenging, and but since then, things have changed tremendously, so that now ag is a big industry. In the old days, people would say Iowa, Idaho, Ohio, what's the difference? Now people say, oh, ag, it's exciting, if you will. It's just funny. But basically, there's one common denominator to agriculture, which is that agriculture continues to change. And people need help in coping with change. And my job, and AgriCapital's job, is to help agribusiness companies cope with change.
Rurik, you've got 50 years of experience in investment. Am I allowed to say that?
Oh, yeah, yeah, please do. Yeah, please do. Why not?
50 years of experience in investment banking, investment management, in engineering. That's obviously served you well. What about that helps you in this day and age of massive change, and technology is driving us forward at a very rapid pace? You know,
it's funny. I welcome change. I welcome change. I know how to cope with change. I think my engineering background is helpful as far as, you know, approaching challenges like one big project, if you will, so that I don't worry about change. And you know, my attitude applies to my work in ag, and it also applies to my living in my hometown, where I'm the guy who's always calling for the town I live in to welcome change as compared to fight change. You can't fight change. You have to cope with it, you have to predict it, you have to anticipate it, and you have to welcome it, if you will. Because once you fight it, then it's a losing battle. So change will happen, things will look differently 5 years from now than they did 5 years ago, and you can't fight that. The thing to do is learn to anticipate it, learn to do the best with it.
Well said, and you know, I think that's one of the common denominators that I see of a lot of people that sit in that chair across from me. People who are successful and understand how to accept that change.
You bet.
And you've obviously proven that you can.
You bet. You bet.
You've been a passionate advocate of agriculture and of the seed industry, even more specifically. I was given a quote that you had given to the Times of Israel. 50 years ago, 1 hectare of land fed one person for a year. By 2050, we'll have to increase that 5-fold so that a hectare feeds 5 people. Yep. Where does AgriCapital fit into that?
Well, basically, in a couple of ways. One, as you know, Shawn, there are 3 big drivers in agriculture. One, of course, is the consumer, more people eating. The consumer is also being more choosy as to what he eats. So it's working both ways, more demand, but also the consumer is becoming more demanding, if you will. You have technology playing a bigger and bigger role, and then you have globalization, so that it's becoming one globe, if you will. So by helping companies remain efficient, and ag is totally unforgiving of inefficiencies. Absolutely unforgiving. 50 years ago, there were several hundred co-ops in Iowa. Now it's down to maybe a few, maybe less than 100, or maybe 50. And then in 10 years, it'll be even half as many. And so my job is to be able to help companies adjust to that, so that help companies merge into bigger companies or other companies so they become stronger, if you will. So by working with agribusiness companies to help them become more efficient, being able to cope better with change, I'm contributing in my own little way.
You travel extensively, RB. I know that I think I see you more in an airport than I see you anywhere. You're over at 25 plus conferences every year all over the globe. I know you've told me before that you see that as being a critical component to staying on top of the industry and being involved in the industry. Why is that so important? And then even specifically, why is CSS, the biggest seed industry conference that happens anywhere, why is it so important?
Let me tell you, I did not grow up on a farm. And though when I went out on my own in early '81, my first 2 clients happened to be in ag. And I really liked the people because I found that integrity-wise, they're absolutely top-notch. And one thing I found about ag is that you can ask the dumbest question. If you ask it honestly, people will not make fun of you, but will help explain it to you. And I'm one of these people who, to my dying day, will be asking dumb questions because I'm always so interested in things.
Right.
And so, and so people have been so kind to me. When I ask questions, people help educate me. And no one is bright enough to be on top of everything that's going on. And by going to these conventions, I mean, I'm so fortunate in meeting some great people and in learning about what's going on, because things are always changing. And at any one time, you can never say, I know what is going on, because you have to go. I mean, last month, I was at APSA in Macau, meeting with some companies. I was in England. I attended a ag conference in Israel where there's a lot of technology comes out. And I come to ASTA. Now, I must admit, and we work across the board in ag, from biotech to the food end of the business, but I do have a warm spot in my heart for the seed business, and especially ASTA. And ASTA says it best, first the seed. And let us not forget it, first the seed. I mean, this little living thing that does so much to so many people, and the seedsmen, these unsung heroes who do so much to come up with these better varieties, that to me it's a privilege working in this industry and attending these meetings.
Well, I will take this opportunity to say thank you for your advocacy of the seed industry. I know you do not hesitate to stand up and take a bullet when necessary from people who want to call into question the integrity of agriculture. And I think agriculture owes you a big pat on the back for doing that.
Well, thank you very much, Shawn. And let me add one thing, which is we in ag don't do enough to inform the public about the magic of the food chain, which is probably man's greatest invention. And we owe it to the public to inform them. And so when the public is misinformed or uninformed, it's not their fault, it's our fault. So I urge everyone, big companies and small, to do what they can, to beat the drum, beat their chests and say, we are ag, and we do something tremendous for you.
Well said, sir. Thanks again for sitting down with me.
Thank you, Shawn. Thank you, buddy. Great.
Well